This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Jared Kallen here joining us. He's the Director of Coaching at Pact Coaching based out of Wynwood, Pennsylvania. He's here today to talk more about the work he's doing and, of course, how he can help you. So first and foremost, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thanks very much. I'm doing great.
Well,
Appreciate
we're
it.
excited that you're here. It's a beautiful day in Pennsylvania, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Same in New York, right? Love it. It's like the spring is
That's
here,
good.
spring is in the air, and I think there's just something to
Yeah,
be said for that. And there's a lot to be said for
sure.
what you're doing because you're really offering expert guidance in improving your executive functioning and life skills gaps and so much more. So we're going to get to know you, obviously, on a one-on-one basis today, and then we'll talk a little bit about all those different services that you provide, like executive functioning, mentoring, writing.
hmm
There's a lot to you. So
hmm
first, Jared, just
Right.
tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Uh, so what do you want to know?
Well,
Uh,
um, why are you here helping so many, especially youth? I mean, I just want to, where were you born and
sure.
raised? And then how did you get into
Yeah,
this
yeah.
field? Yeah, I know it could take days, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, right. So basically, I was born in West Philadelphia, right off Penn campus. We're a Penn family, and my dad taught there for 60 years. But education was always like a huge focus for all of us, everyone in the family. And so I taught high school history and English for 5 years in private school settings mostly, but some public school. Then I got a master's in education at Penn, and then I taught, but then I wanted to really drill down and help individuals in a tutoring coaching sort of model. And I found that my hope was to be able to help more people and go deeper with each different client. And then what happened was I thought because I came from a humanities background that I would get mostly history, English, writing type, two T's. But it turned out, and this is what this is how I developed my niche. Is that all the referrals that came in, whether it was from learning specialists or heads of schools or teachers or other tutors or other coaches or therapists primarily, were all young people who were neurodivergent, meaning they had ADHD,
Mm-hmm.
ADD, autism. And therefore, I was pleasantly surprised because then I had to become an expert in this because the whole goal is to help as many people as I can to give them a robust toolkit so they can, improve, grow, develop, meet their potential or exceed it.
Amazing. Wow. Thank you for that. So I know you're helping a lot of those with ADHD, ADD, autism,
Yeah.
and so much more. And we're excited that you're here joining us today. And of course, helping so many. Now, I know you're based in Pennsylvania, but you're working with people all over, correct?
Yes. Yeah, correct. 95% I would say is virtual. The other 5% I have an office right here in Wynwood. Anyone can come at any time. But that said, what happened was the when the pandemic came,
Oh,
whereas we were prior to that, we were always going to people's houses. That changed. That was like a paradigm shift. And then we had to go virtual, like all the schools had to go virtual. And but then it turned out that it's very doable and you can be very effective. Sometimes you can be even more effective because kids love FaceTime. You get on FaceTime, start doing a session, you start telling jokes, start having fun, and then you go into whatever the tasks are for the day.
amazing. Well, thank you for being here. And you mentioned if nothing changes, then nothing changes, right? So you're
Right,
providing
right,
educational executive functioning, full on life coaching
yeah,
for all different people. So where did you want to get
yeah.
started about these specific services that you do provide?
Well, so the what I can tell you quickly what I sort of treat and address, and then I can
Yes,
tell you what I think why I think um, I'm pretty good at it. So the main thing is that
of
basically,
course.
to most, I'm going to generalize here, but most ADHDers and neurodivergent learners are um, they can be somewhat challenging. They can be a little resistant. They can be oppositional. They can say no more often than they say yes. They don't like to plan.
Yeah.
Their brains, through no fault of their own, their brains have no concept of time. And so the areas that we focus on are all these things having to do with something called executive functioning, which is has to do with prioritization, scheduling, planning, and also things like chunking, scaffolding the work. Doing a little bit every day instead of cramming at the last minute. I'm trying to prevent procrastination, which is a huge,
Yeah.
prevalent problem with this whole population and with everybody in general, probably. But and also to teach people how to self advocate more, more effectively and clearly, instead of sort of avoiding. But probably more importantly is sort of how I've figured out how to get at this population and make everybody stronger, and that's really through strong rapport. And the reason is because a lot of these kids for years or even decades, depending on them, have not been celebrated, but the opposite. They've been denigrated often. They've been called stupid, dumb, lazy, clueless.
Ah,
Never, unsuccessful, destined to fail, that kind of stuff. And so, through very strong and entertaining and engaging rapport, I try to reverse that and celebrate each client. And the way to do that, especially with this type of client, the neurodivergent client, is you cannot be boring. That's when they're going to turn off. So if I customize a plan for any kid, a new kid coming on FaceTime, for example, I will know everything and more about that kid before we ever see each other on FaceTime. I will know his likes and his dislikes. I will know his pet peeves. I will know his prior experiences with tutors, coaches, and therapists. I will know the priorities of the parents who just hired me, all that kind of stuff. But I'll also know his passions and his interests. And all the data shows that where we make the most progress is when anybody determines what their why is. Why are they living? Why are they on Earth? What's their purpose? And so the interesting dichotomy there is that a lot of people will come on and say, well, what apps can I use? You're the executive functioning coach. Like, what's the best app out there and stuff? But what the data shows is that's all good, but it's not central. What's central is getting people to figure out their why, and then usually greater focus and greater executive functioning and greater growth in general occurs, if that makes sense.
yeah. Now, what inspired you to really do this? Could you share a little bit more of your backstory?
Yeah, I mean, the backstory is that I love to help people, and I also love to have fun, and I like things to be lighter rather than heavier. So whether that's being a little sarcastic at times, or telling jokes, or even being a little provocative, it turns out that's me, and it also turns out it's well suited for most neurodivergents. Because they like they like stimulation, they can't stand boring. So it's sort of I lined up with a lot of them in terms of some of these characteristics, and so that's sort of I like to have fun, I like to laugh, when we're talking about time management or better scheduling and stuff. A lot of times the kids will say, "Well, I don't plan. I'm not going to plan. Don't make me plan. Don't even ask me to plan." And so there's your opposition at first, and then my goal is to sort of not really just teach them the mechanics of how to plan, which is easy. You have a planning system, just use it. Check things off as you go. But it's more of showing our youth how they can benefit themselves by better planning. And so I always say, get the work done and then have fun. Well, if you're really organized, and you're really on top of your own stuff, then you'll have more time to have more fun, whether it's a
Yeah.
sorority or fraternity party, or going out with your girlfriend or boyfriend, or eating chocolate cake. It doesn't matter. It's fun. And so, and so when you can make that little mini paradigm shift, like, look, I know you don't want to plan. I don't love to plan. It's not fun to record everything you have to do. It's not fun to check it off as you go, but ultimately you win. You're going to win. Fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you for
You're going to
that.
get more done.
Yeah. And that's what it's about.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh, go
that's what
ahead,
it's
go ahead.
about. It's like, I mean, no, that's what it's about. It's about, it's really about, so again, the neurodivergent population, they can be very black and white thinkers, overly so, and that doesn't always serve them well. You want to get them more into the gray, and so sometimes they'll be very opinionated, and they won't want to back down from their opinion no matter what. And you have to sort of reverse that, and you have to sort of be a mini detective and figure out like where is the thought process sort of wrong, where is it not serving them well, and then they also with this population you can't order them or demand them or direct them too much or anything like that. You have to really come at it from different angles. Like you have to say, in any given situation, it could be a social situation that is challenging. It could be
Yeah.
an academic situation, stress, et cetera. And instead of saying anything sort of to the client, the young person, you say something like, "If I were you in this situation,
Oh,
I probably would do
yeah.
X and I wouldn't do Y."
Mm-hmm.
And that now you have you're identifying with the kid. You're trying to provide a little guidance, but you're not force feeding them because it never works. Never,
Very true.
just it's you're going to get stopped.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And there's still so much more about you that I want people to know. And I want to
Yeah,
even
sure.
hear some of the, the coaching stories and testimonials on, I got to peek around and peruse before, and
Right, right.
it's always important what people say. I saw you on social media too, but
Hmm.
just a few things. He's a man who thinks about the human first. This is from a George Washington University repeat senior. And
Hmm.
there's plenty more to this because there's just so many great things. Not your average tutor, and this person is wants to explain. People saying you help them so much, you appreciate all the work you've done. You're the far most helpful coach I've ever worked with. You invest in, you push them gently. I mean, great teacher, great coach. There's so many testimonials that are impactful, and
Yeah.
people not knowing, and you help guide the way for them. So, could you share some of these experiences with some of the, your clients? And it's always great to hear so people can empathize and relate and say, hey, maybe I could benefit from that. Maybe my son could benefit from that. And by the
Yeah.
way,
Yeah, sure.
you work with people of all ages, or
All ages and all abilities. So anyone anywhere from middle school, for example, all the way to age 85.
perfect.
So and all abilities, et cetera. And the reason is because the approach is almost always the same. It just has to be customized to that specific client. But to your point about like what some people have said about me, some of the kids especially, it really is that the notion that um, I do care. I care a lot, and that's why that the one guy that the GW student said he's a friend also, first and foremost, because you really, I really want to communicate that, the whole concept of I got you, I understand you,
Yeah.
and we together are going to win. We're going to win,
Yeah.
whatever it and it's sort of like whatever it takes mentality, like and so we're going to co-create things, and
Yeah.
he's going to help me, and I'm going to help him. It's not going to, it's going to be more of like, in some senses, it's more of equals, instead of like the big bad headmaster who's ordering people around, or the CEO who says, I don't have heart attacks, I give heart attacks. I'm the opposite.
Yeah.
Um, no, so they're anyone who I'm taking on is, I tell them up front that they're in a no judgment zone. There is no
Mm-hmm.
judgment. I can just tell you, I've never been surprised at
Yeah.
this point after doing it over 30 years at any situation that comes up. So, in some sense, it's important as a coach to be sort of unflappable, not to react much, not to be dramatic, just to say, oh, that's interesting, and then figure out what to do to sort of correct the problem, or reverse engineer it, instead of freaking out. I'll give you an example of, sometimes when parents hear things they don't like about their kid, it could be academic stuff, it could be social stuff, it could be something inappropriate or something.
Yeah.
They usually scream at them something like, "What were you thinking?"
Yeah.
And I don't do that.
Yeah.
Instead, I just sort of try to piece together how it happened, what the context of the situation was, and then maybe suggest what they could do better next time. And that hopefully will stay with them,
Yes.
especially, so instead, so when anyone says, you know, you knew you were going to get caught if you lied, or you knew
Yeah.
you were going to get caught if you cheated, or you knew you were going to get caught if you used,
Ah.
AI Google Chat, right?
Oh
So why'd you do
gosh.
it? So that's you could I might end up saying that too to somebody if I have really strong rapport with them, which is my goal. But
Hmm.
when you're facing a barrage of questions that are sort of a little bit aggressive, they come from a place of love. Parents love their kids,
Of
but
course we
they're
do.
but
Yeah.
yeah, but it's sort of like you have to be able to roll with whatever the situation is. You have to be ultra flexible, um, and then just sort of thinking through it. Like when some of these things happen, I have to go back and say, let's replay exactly what happened just before you did whatever you just did that wasn't good. Let's say, or did not serve you well. And they'll say, well, they might say a lot of things that I would then have to address. I take copious notes. They might say, well, I was really tired, and by the way, I hate the English teacher, and and I also had a fight with my girlfriend, right? And so you have all these issues going on, and you have to sort of parse them and then provide a little perspective or a quick mini shot of what's important, what's not in the moment. Like what's important in the moment on that call might be resurrecting the kid's English paper where the kid blew past the prompt, which is very common for neurodivergence. They read part of the essay prompt and they go, "Oh yeah, I know what they're asking," and then they miss half of it. Then they go ahead and write the paper, and it might be a great paper, but it didn't hit the prompt. It didn't correspond with the prompt. So a high quality paper might end up getting an F because they blew past it. They rushed, which is another neurodivergent characteristic. Sort of rush. Let's get the work done. I don't really like it that much. I want to have more fun.
My goodness, I get it. Wow, thank you so much for that. And
Sure.
in your line of work, obviously you're helping so many. I mean, and could I just ask personally, do you have a son?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I have two kids.
Or
I
how
have
many kids? I didn't
uh
know what I saw on your social media page. Yeah, so do
yeah,
you mind
yeah.
sharing about?
No, no, I have two kids. I have a 20-year-old son who's a wide receiver at Dickinson.
Oh,
Um and he's on partial scholarship there. We're all
love
very proud
that.
of him. He conditions and tries harder than anybody I've ever met, to be honest. And then I have a wonderful daughter who's 24 who went to Tulane, was very involved with the sororities and did fantastically well academically. And she's a successful graphic designer in Soho currently.
Wow. Oh my
So
goodness.
they got great either because of me or in spite of me. I don't know which, but they're really good, and I've learned a lot from them.
Oh
Of
my
course, because
gosh.
sometimes they give you a little pointer like when you say X, I feel Y, and that's good. You need that.
Of course.
Yeah,
Absolutely is.
yeah.
Wow. What else did you want to share for us today, darling? There's still so much.
Well, it's really just it's just yes, I forgot what I wrote you, but it's sort of like I'm trying to think of like sort of the most important things. The most important thing is uh is sort of rapport, which we already touched on. Get it however you can get it, but get it. And then another important thing is to try to really ramp up the consistency of effort, um, and to be accountable and self accountable. And to that end, every client I take on is supposed to text me every day, including weekends, with their plan for the day.
Oh,
And so
interesting.
yeah. So basically, the data shows that the more touches that you make with each one of these
Yeah.
neurodivergent clients, the better. Because you can be increasing the rapport on a daily basis because you can exchange information, but you can also exchange a funny emoji or a joke on the text. And again, you're trying to make them feel warmer, and more of that feeling of "I got you." But also the daily texting. Um, also serves another purpose, which is to really hold the kid accountable, and to become a better planner. So if they know that Jared is expecting a text at X time on every day, and then they realize, they look at their planner if they have one, and they realize they have nothing written in there, they might say to themselves, I better have a plan. I should, I don't want to waste the day. What do I have to do? Whether it's work, school work, or other things, chores, etc. What do I have to do? And the other great thing about the texting is you can reverse engineer it. So, for example, I have a Harvard student. He's a senior. And he had a calculus test. He texted me on a Wednesday that he had studied 5 hours in the library, and he had done the review sheet and he was ready. But then on Friday, I got a text saying he got an F. And so sometimes in this mini detective mode that I have to get into, I sort of said, wait, this doesn't really make sense at all, Jim. You texted all the hours and all the effort. You did all the right things, apparently, and then, but if you did all that, then you couldn't have gotten an F. So I said, either you went to the library and you studied many fewer hours than you texted me, which is fine.
Yeah.
I don't mean fine. I don't mean fine as in good. I mean, a lot of kids minimize or lie. So that, or you only did the problems in the review sheet that you understood, but you
True.
avoided the ones that you didn't.
Ugh.
And you also didn't use office hours with the professor prior to that. And I said, so which one is it, on the text that I sent back to the Harvard guy? And he said all of the above. So then now you know what to address in the next session. The only other thing so accountability via daily communication is very important for lots of reasons. Plus, you add the rapport. The rapport will drive them to do some of the things that they normally would not want to do. That's how it works. And the role of parents is incredibly important because they can either help or hurt, to be honest. And so part of my job is to gently guide them as to what is working on their end, in the way that they respond to their kids, and what is not working. I'll give you an example of a couple of those. Like one, I was sitting, I'm on FaceTime with the kid, and he's tuned out. He's not really talking to me. He's not really, it wasn't good. And so and sometimes I have the mom or dad come on to the video in the beginning just to make sure that we're all on this, we're united, we're all on the same front. Like everyone agrees about what's going on, because sometimes there's major disagreement there, or a huge discrepancy. So anyway, the
Yeah.
mom sees her boy, sort of out of it already. And then she explains a couple things. She answered a couple of my questions. But then as she was leaving, she said, I don't think you're going to get anything more out of him today, Jared. That's not what you want to do, because then all of a sudden she was giving him license to shut down and not use the rest of the session. And that's exactly what happened. So,
Wow.
or sometimes, parents might be a little too focused on a quick uptick in grades, but that's not really the focal point. The focal point is working on getting better at our process in terms of planning, prioritizing, scheduling. And if that does get done, the grades will always increase. They will always go up. The outcomes will always be better. And so it's sort of like, what's that saying about don't put the baby ahead of the bathwater? Like, let's get the kid organized and more independent and less codependent, and more hungry to be self-accountable, and all that others, and more, a greater ability to self-advocate with professors and teachers. And then all that stuff that you want to see, mom or dad, you'll see it. You'll see it. I guarantee you.
Got it. Wow. All right. Well, we are just about out of time, and got to learn a lot about you and the people you're helping, and clearly your passion and your love for doing this work and
Yep.
mentoring
Yep.
and wow,
Yep.
action-packed coaching. Yes, that's what it's called. We're
Mm-hmm.
very thankful, Jared, that you're here with us today, and really appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Have a great day. Good to
Well,
talk to you.
we're not done yet. You got to tell us how we
Oh,
can reach out to you, please.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Anybody can reach out to me about anything, to be honest. And it's, the email address is my first name, Jared, Jared, then the @sign, and then all one word, actionpackedcoaching.com. So it's Jared at actionpackedcoaching.com. pactcoaching.com. And that sort of spells out my company because I believe in action. But you have to have a pact with everybody so that you can get there. You have to have agreement. And then my number is 202-880-5134. Again, that's 202-880-5134. And both my websites, which is the same thing with the name, www.actionpactcoaching.com, and my LinkedIn profile have roughly 110 third-party testimonials. So any parent or anybody who wants to learn more about how I go about things, the diversity of the people who I coach, et cetera, will find that in all those areas.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your time, for being here, and looking forward to the next time we get to connect. Have a fantastic day. Thank you again.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.